Okay, so I like right there where we started off discussing this, the athletic, athlete, whatever is a personals ad right there. So if you're going to write your personals ad, which I've never done,
I was going to say people do that all the time these days.
people do that all. We have a good friend who just recently got married from a
Well,
dating
okay, I
site.
guess it is eHarmony and those kind of things that I
Yep.
guess that is your now. That's what we're thinking about. A
Yeah.
personals ad. It's not the newspaper.
I haven't been exactly. I still think
That's
of
what
the
I
new.
was thinking
I
of.
think of that
Yeah.
too. But so if you're going to put it in there and you're going to list out all your credentials and to say, "Gosh, I love to cook. I like dancing. I'm, I guess people put in their ethnicity. I don't know what all they put in there, but would you want to put that in there that I am athletic? I think most people would want to. Okay, so here's what you don't know. So I posted this question asking people, do you think of yourself as athletic? Got a ton of responses right away. And so when I post something online, I know whether it resonated within about 5 minutes.
Wow.
Because I'll start getting boom, boom, boom. And I did on this one. However, the first question I asked is, do you think of yourself as an athlete? In 24 hours, I got 0 responses. It's almost to the point where I wondered, was there a glitch? Did Facebook? No, but I literally went on and just deleted it because nobody responded at all. So if that's legitimate, nobody said an athlete, but I did get a lot more responses to athletic. Yeah. What would you say? Do you think of yourself as an athlete?
When you first asked me that question this morning, I was thinking on the negative side, like, who am I to think I'm an athlete? I mean, you have been a professional athlete. But when you say athletic, I would say, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. But an athlete, and in fact, my wife and I, Marcy, because she'll use that word as an athlete, and I'll be like, well, I mean, really? We're athletic, but as an athlete, I get why that didn't resonate, because it would not have, the two questions would be very different for me.
And honestly, it's not to sit here and make a point to where, who is or is not an athlete. I think that we as a culture have gotten to the point of an athlete is somebody we watch on screen who gets paid and they have a contract and whatever. So yeah, I was a professional athlete. I made money with that. But now today, am I an athlete? Well, you could say by proxy, is it because you compete? So I competed this year. I did some bike races and I'm in the expert, level or whatever. But man, even without that, when have I not been? I went for years not doing any competition. And my family, well, here, so Joe Pellerito, I know Joe. He says, I'm 45. I recently was describing someone else as an athlete. And my wife said, well, you're an athlete too, honey. It's funny. And I didn't see myself that way and did not know it. But I loved it when she said that. So yes, I'm athletic. So athlete, athletic.
Yeah.
But I think, if I told somebody, I don't know, I guess I do think when I say of athlete, I'll think more of people who compete. But my gosh, there's a zillion people who never make money doing that, but they do their 5Ks.
No, but I think if, like our friend Patrick, I would call him, even though he doesn't compete, but he goes the extra mile. He buys the stuff. You would get Cycling Magazine, or you're on Strava and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not. And those are the kinds of things I would cross over. Even somebody who doesn't get paid for it would be in that realm.
Well, so Jeff Bayless here. So I am gonna go through and read some of the responses. He is, I think he just retired from. Oh, forgive me, Jeff, from the Marines, from the military. I don't know what it was, but from the military. He says, yes, athletic, but not an athlete. He said, and this is his, perspective, the delineation between the two is a different level of commitment.
Yeah.
Okay. Devotion is, I thought about that too. I work out every single day. I compete in Ironman triathlons. However, it is something I do as a passion project. It isn't who I am. That's the difference in my opinion. And see, I see his stuff. I follow him he's on Strava. I'd say the dude's an athlete. I mean,
he clearly came from the Marines, not the Air Force.
Okay. A level of commitment, devotion, or competence. But even there, man, if you know somebody, we know people out there who are they do 20 races, like running races. Anybody can go do that. 5Ks, 10Ks. And let's just say they're technically butt slow. But it's part of who they are. They spend a lot of money on it. They go out there. Are they an athlete?
I'd give them that.
I would too. My wife responded back and said, yes, most of her athletic pursuit or exercise these days is Zumba classes.
I'll give her credit.
She's maybe even saying physically able. I mean, is she, can this person right now, we can look up there and look at the ridge. And I know that because that's up near my house. Mm-hmm. And it's from where we're standing, it's about 800 or 900 feet up in elevation. And we're sitting now at 8,500 feet. So it's probably about 9,300 feet right up there. And you and I could take off right now and in a brisk walk and a little running, make it up there. And that's physical ability. I'd say it's athletic.
I would agree. Yeah. But I don't know. I still wouldn't call me an athlete.
Yeah. Well, okay. And again, that wasn't the point, but it was just, let's look and see how people define it. So Matt McWilliams, a lot of these people, again, it's off Facebook. I know these folks. He said a year ago, no. Now, yes. So I said, tell me the story. He sent me a picture. I didn't realize it. And this picture over here, beginning of the year, he is not small. And now he, face-wise, probably close to my face. I mean, he's lost a ton of weight. I don't know if he said that. He says, I'm working out at levels I didn't even do when I was in my 20s. And I'd say he's in his 40s at least. He's running 15 plus miles a week, lifting weights I never dreamed of before, 6 days a week. Now, so Matt, he is I'll call him an online personality. He does a lot with affiliate marketing and works with a lot of influencers, is an influencer. And I remember probably last year, it might've been when you and I
was going to say, I remember him.
I think you met him at the Ziegler event we did in Nashville.
And he wasn't a small guy.
He wasn't a small guy. And and I hope I'm doing him credit, Matt, forgive me if I get a little up, but it was something that he shared with me. He struggled with his own persona of being in business development, personal development. And here he is, not proud of how he looked and felt. So big change that to him matters. It probably makes him money. I mean, people do judge a book by its cover. Yeah. Brian here says, I play fairly athletic. I played ball in high school. Now I play pickleball and occasionally golf. Not very good at either, but good enough to enjoy them both. Again, I think, if you're investing and doing it consistently.
Do we call golfers athletes?
That's dependent. Well, I don't know. I struggle. Yeah. Maybe like a dart player at a bar or something like that. Not the disc golfing. I would do golf if they had a time limit on it,
The speed golf.
Speed golf or full contact or something like this. Hey, this is cool. Steven Sashin, he says, well, I'm a Masters All-American sprinter at age 58. So I'll go for yes. Do you remember his name? Steven Sashin? Zero shoes. Remember did you get him back then when we got the little sandals? I got I got the platform sandals that we tied on.
Yeah.
That's him.
Okay.
So today, Zero Shoes is a huge company. I mean, I think they're just up in Boulder. I just bought a couple pair. They had some big sale and I bought a couple pair. So yeah, he's a guy who obviously promotes these, and yeah, you can do Masters level track and field and stuff.
Well, almost anything. Our friend Tony Dale, when he was at upper 60s or 70s, ranked number 1 in America in squash in his age group.
That's so cool.
I'll give him that title.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Jennifer here, Jennifer Meisel, she says, yes, but it comes as a surprise to me when I can't do certain things I've always taken for granted, like lifting my Christmas tree by myself from the car to my home. I've lost strength, but not agility. And that's interesting because, when I get on the bike, my head still thinks I'm a pro cyclist. I got into a fairly elite level race, probably 4 months ago. And it helped remind me that I'm not.
That's good.
I'm athletic. I'll still say athlete, but yeah, it's interesting for those who were. I mean, how many people do we know though? Why is that? That you go to school, you play sports, you are athletic. It used to be back in the day. I think you had to. You did recess, you did stuff, and then you leave it. At one point, do you just completely stop?
We've talked about this before in a different context. And the one that on the medical side, the one that I hit is especially women, when they hit middle school, they stop. Unless you are in volleyball or in tennis or in basketball, they don't play. Play has gone. So it's much easier to sit on your phone, play around on your phone or computer games, or just be inside or just, I don't want to. But in elementary school, girls and boys, they play. You got to go outside and be recessed. And then you have to go into a sport. There's no such thing as playing in the middle school to high school transition. And there, I think in middle school here, just one of the years or two of the years had PE, and in high school, there's no required PE. Mm-hmm. So they have health, but no PE. So play stops, and the athleticism stops. That word athlete then gets tied into, well, do I play something? Am I in a sport? Or like we talk about all the time, what is my capacity? You and I know we could run up that hill. And I know a lot of teenagers who would struggle.
Oh, well, we know that more and more every day.
Or just would choose not to.
How many are labeled obese now? I mean, we went through those stats recently. And yeah, that kids, we know that sports across the country, I don't know about the world, but at least the US, sports participation is way down. And yeah, how many kids right here at the high school, we can see part of the high school right now from here, of those kids, they left middle school recess, PE, and now do nothing.
They just don't do it. And that goes into the persona. They don't see themselves as athletic.
Well, and that's part of my inspiration, or what I hope to inspire today. And I was thinking about that. What are the labels that we would want? Back to the personals ad.
Yeah.
We want. So for me, I want to be labeled. I like it that my family says, "Oh, Daddy is a really good cook." I want that one. I'd put that in my personals ad. Don't they have a personals? They have a personals thing for married people, I think.
I don't know.
It's terrible that I know that. They do. So I guess you can still do that. But cook. And I wrote down parent and spouse, but then I thought, no, that's not fair, because you can be a parent by proxy of you fathered or birthed a kid and suck at it, not be proficient, not devote at it.
Right. It has a different kind of. The title parent is just kind of like saying black or white. I mean, when you say I'm a cook, that implies that you're actually a good cook.
Yeah.
If you say I'm a parent, that doesn't imply you're a good parent.
There's some quote that I've seen about Christians or something like going to church doesn't make you a true Christian any more than standing in your garage makes you a car.
Right.
Did I get that right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to say, am I a good parent? That would be different. A writer. I've always liked the term being a writer. And I would say, that's been most of my work. Even when you and I worked together on the practice here, I wrote everything into existence. I wrote. So am I a paid writer? Sure. But it's not until recently that I'm literally paid for that document that I wrote. But I've always considered myself a writer. I like that label. So, again, that was part of the effort here, is getting us to think about, am I athlete, whether or not athlete? I'm going to say I'm an athlete, but am I at least athletic? Would you put that on your personals ad? And do you want to? So are some people going to hear this, and I hope that it would inspire them to go, I want that label. If I was going to write a personals ad, I would want that. Or if I was going to write you and I would like to see that on a job application. Can we ask that? I don't know HR laws.
If somebody is applying here to say I'm athletic as a part of their job application, yes.
I would put
it implies certain characteristics about
exactly.
somebody.
I would put more impetus on that. Let me think. I would. I've done a triathlon. I've done a marathon. I run a marathon. Than I would by saying I have a degree in whatever, because really one tells me a lot more about the person.
It completely depends. For your doctor, for your surgeon, do you really care?
Okay.
For your airline pilot,
true.
Your accountant,
okay. So it depends. If it's I'm not going to say a degree to diss somebody, because somebody out there's going to have one that I would name. But we know people who have a degree and
they're a terrible accountant.
Yeah, they sat through class and they memorized enough to pass and got a degree. But to do what it takes to do a marathon, especially if we said at a certain time, that tells a lot. So again, would we want?
Well, and I think here, and maybe I'm going to be the naysayer to you on this, not naysayer, but skeptic guy, and say a lot of people are also sitting there and saying no. And are they bad? Are they wrong? Are they for saying, I don't really aspire to athleticism. And so I think where we are encouraging, the big question is, how does one see oneself? What is one's persona? And how does that then impact the quality of their life and their inspiration and aspiration and motivation? And does being athletic increase quality of life, increase your motivation, aspiration. And I think you and I would land, if there was data that we could quote, I agree. I'm going to say yes.
How is there not data that we can quote?
Well, I'm going to go back to, no, there's not. We can go poll 100 marathoners and they might have a terrible marriage and they hate their life. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, it's in the pie chart of health and wellness. It means something for a slice.
It means you can run a marathon.
Well, yeah, but if you're physically active, let's just go to that.
Okay.
Obviously, you know that ekes into a lot. I mean,
yes,
you should by proxy be more mentally able if you're physically able, and vice versa, less if you're less. I mean, to that, what?
Well, this I'm laughing because this is one of those areas where you like, okay, give me the boil down. Because I think you are overboiling this to say if somebody runs, if they're athletic, then by proxy, by definition, they are better.
There's a higher probability of some other positive, of that positively impacting other areas of their life, as opposed to being sedentary.
I will agree with that in most cases.
Well, so I mean, but to go back to the kids, you know, I have told my kids, and I imagine you, at what point should my kids leave athleticism? Because right now, okay, you know, Nakota, he's 10. He's 10 and he goes to recess and they play soccer and they play groundies and they play, you know, whatever all their little games are. And I've gotten him into sports, which I didn't with my older kids, and I regret. They ended up, now all of my older kids ended up doing at least cross country, but early on they didn't. And I regret that. I like what I've seen in your kids, the discipline, the achievement. I like that. I left sports. I got kind of tired of some of the narcissistic aspects, at least in my own sport, and left it. And I regret that because I like the benefit. Anyways, you know, so Nakota is athletic because he's 10 years old. I mean, it's hard not to be. Well, it's easier every day now, but he is. At what point is it okay for him to leave that? And I would say never. If you're going to be a human, Nakota, and be able to, well, it comes to us and us talking about who do we want to be? Do I want to be 80 years old and be able to help my kids move, to show up with a moving van and heft a couch and help them move, to go on a hike with my kids, to go, for us to go on a 14er, because we're gonna have kids and grandkids that go, hey, let's do a 14er. Oh, well, Grandpa, can you watch the little grandkids?
Grandpa on the couch.
Since you're going to be grandpa on the couch. And I think I don't have that right. I don't have the right to not, to the best of my abilities, continue to be athletic just for my kind of what Jennifer said. She's having a hard time taking her tree from her car to her house. It didn't used to be that way. When do we want to leave that ability?
Well, we don't. So you and I, we are now correlating the word athleticism with capacity.
Yes.
Capacity and resilience. And that's where I'd say yes. The human who is more physically capable / athletic does by definition increase capacity. They could wreck their lives in 100 ways over here.
Sure.
But as a part of the pie slices of life, it is not okay to leave athleticism. So now I'm also picturing the man or woman driving in their car. They're rolling their eyeballs at us. They're overweight and frustrated, and they're 10 years away from the last time they ever said, okay, I got to get back in shape or whatever. And the guilt, the layer of expectation that they have on themselves, a spouse has on them, or a friend or parent, and just the frustration of it. And I would put myself in that category, even though everybody judges me by weight and say, well, you look athletic, and I get that benefit. How much athleting, how much capability exercising am I doing on a regular basis? It's less than what I ought to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, you got a lifetime benefit of having been active all of your life.
Sure. There hasn't been weeks and weeks go by where there's the cumulative effect of not doing anything.
Yeah.
But
when have you ever gone a week doing nothing athletic?
Well, I would say often.
Really?
Yeah. Over the course of life, I mean, my goodness, finals week and moving and military, whatever. There's been many, many weeks of zero athletic activity.
I didn't know. Yeah. I probably have never had a week go by outside of a 2-year stint. So we had Caleb, who works here, works for you now, had him, and he ended up in the hospital with all his problems. I stopped cycling, got a real job, my only 2-year real job, and literally 2 years of a lot. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. It's been 25 years ago now that it's hard to remember, but my memories, I didn't do anything. I didn't really change weight. I just traded softness for muscle. And then it was getting close to 2 years, and my wife bought me a bike and said, please go train. She didn't even say, go ride it. She said, go train, like for a race, because you're a better human when you do that.
So that's where I want to highlight the compassion that we have for people. Because like you said, I got a real job. Well, that is most people.
Right.
You are very unusual in your lack of real jobness and time availability.
Yeah.
And you've worked for it. But most people are in the ball and chain of a schedule, and to go add in, like, I love what you said. If you're a human being, to go in human, to go be, part of that is by definition moving and breathing, and if you're doing that in a chair, like you wake up, you go sit at breakfast, you sit in the car, you go sit at work, you go and come back home and sit in front of the TV. That's not humaning as human as you could be, but at the same time, so we're now back to, if somebody can choose to see themselves as capable and athletic, then the next thing is to go and do those things.
Yeah.
Like we say about our pull-ups. If I want to be doing 15 pull-ups every year, the rest of my life, I need to do them every day, and then I'll be the guy doing them.
Yeah. And then again, it comes to, who do we want to be? What do we want to be investing in? What do we want to be making deposits in, to therefore be? And I like it. The whole thing just got me thinking of the term athletic. And to some degree, who would not want that term? Now, I do get that. My mom has, and she may listen to this, and I think she's okay with me sharing. She spent a lifetime saying, I don't like exercise. Hate exercise. Just don't like it. And now at 70, whatever she is, she's trying to do it because she does not want to lose mobility capacity. She does not want to lose that. And I think there's some, regret for that in the past. So yeah, I know you get, and it's so hard. We're all advocates, confirmation bias of what we enjoy doing. And I love my exercise. So does everybody need to do that? Man, I've had people on the Ziegler show on the bookshelves behind me. I remember one, Janelle Bruland. I'll have to go look and see what her book is, but she said, I hate exercise. I asked her about her habits. She says, I hate it, but I do it. There's another guy too. This is in the past year, because usually people are okay with it, but they said, I hate it.
I'm going to quote Patrick Mahomes. Okay. And I think people out there will remember this commercial if you're a football fan, and the green beans. 100% hate them, 100% don't care. As he's eating them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be like me having to deal with finances.
100% hate them, 100% need them.
Thank goodness. That's a little unfair, because I can delegate most of that by paying CPAs, but that means I'm taking my vocational time to earn money, and I'm investing it to make sure that it is taken care of.
That's an interesting contrast, because when it comes to the green beans, people just don't do them, or their vegetables, or exercise. You can't not budget to some degree. You can't not eat anything. But 100% hate them. Most people will say 100% not doing it. Yeah. But unlike Janelle, who said she hated exercise, but finish her story. Does she exercise?
Yep. She did. And now, and again, she's gotten to the point, or gotten a lifestyle where she can afford it. And she's just like the other guy whose name is slipping me right now. And both of them said, I hate it.
Oh, didn't she pay somebody?
She paid. Both of them did. Both of them. One of them paid and have a personal trainer show up at their home. One of them pays, goes somewhere. But, back to my wife, she has been a lifetime. She was a professional, dancer, and she's run marathons and whatever. I don't know that she likes it though. And she looks at me in my rec room, working out. She says, it's so cool you can do that. I just can't, or won't. I'm just not going to. So she gets up in the morning, like she did this morning. Her alarm goes off at 7:00. She's not a morning person, but her alarm goes off at 7:00. She puts it in I'm going to snooze it 50 times. So she put it in the bathroom. So it goes off in there. So she has to get up, go in there and do it. And then she got in her car and went to class, and she does Zumba class with her social group of friends. mean, she's excited to go just to connect with them. And half the time she didn't ever tell me much about the class or what they did. She just tells me about, oh, Susie was doing this and Barbara's doing this, and that's her connection time. And she works her butt off. She'll do 2 classes sometime. I think it's just as much to hang out with people, and get out of mommy role sometimes. And it keeps her well. And she has high capacity. Yeah. So I do like that aspect of to have the capacity to be 80 and mobile, you have to be an athlete to some degree. To be mobile, again, it's not the person. There was recently a lady in a wheelchair. She's 100 years old. She can't get out of the wheelchair. I don't really want to be that. I'd rather knock off before then.
I think most people would say that some people say, yeah, I have a family history. A lady said yesterday, and I plan on living for a long time. And then we're back to the question, are you going to live or linger? Yes. How are you going to live, or are you going to be lingering in a home or in a chair or in the rocking chair? Are you grandpa on the couch?
Yeah.
And none of that is immoral, but it is by definition less capable. And that's where I think for you and I, we have such a strong sense of mission and passion and purpose, even with our family. Like, I want to be grandpa helping us move, and grandpa takes us skiing, not only grandpa on the couch.
Yeah.
And that is motivating.
Well, and I will say this, and I know you'll understand this. I have older kids. Your oldest is 14. My oldest is 25, I think. And the older ones have all testified saying, Daddy, you inspired us with your pursuit of physical wellness. Mm-hmm. So just to the parents out there, realizing whether you like it or not, to realize what you expose your kids to will matter. And I don't know, I'm sure it exists, but it feels like most of the active people I know, it's got to be statistically, they tend to have more athletic kids. I mean, I'm sure there's how many kids become doctors whose parents were doctors. I mean, the stats are higher. It's what they're exposed to. And whereas you got other kids going, I could never be a doctor. If your parent's a doctor, you think, well, of course I could.
Yeah.
Dad did it.
So go the opposite. And I've told the story about you before. And way early on in our relationship, when I first got to town, and I was saying the very typical thing that people say, if I ask you, what do most people say when I say, do you exercise? And they say no. And I say, why? I don't have enough time. Time is number one. Second is I don't have enough
energy.
Yep. 99% right there. Now somebody might say, well, I hurt my leg, or, I have a rash or something. But time is way number one. And you and I were getting to know each other, and you asked me that. And I said, oh my gosh, yeah, but I don't have enough time and whatever else. And you said, so are you teaching your kids that? Or you said it in such a way that, so you are teaching your kids that.
Yeah, I did. That's funny that you say that, because I think the same thing about you talking about being an entrepreneur. And you said, are you teaching your kids to be harried and frazzled,
harried and hectic?
And that was convicting to me about how I was showcasing
Totally. So, and I think a lot of people hearing this right now we're all busy. Well, I hope you're busy. Otherwise you're, bored or doing nothing, and have kids, have family, have a spouse, have things to do. But if you say, well, I can't do this thing that we say is critical to be a better human, there needs to be movement. And I'm speaking to myself now. And if you aren't doing those kind of things on some kind of rhythmic, regular basis or whatever, you are by definition teaching yourself out of habit, your spouse and your kids, this is how to be a well-intended functioning human in society. And as a consequence, our teenagers don't exercise, are not athletic. And to the flip side, I've also heard people say, one particular teenager I'm thinking of who says, oh yeah, I play volleyball. And I'm like, that's great. How much? 2 months out of the year, I'm on the volleyball team.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's something. But she saw herself as athletic. And I'd say that's a definition that's not quite correlating with the definition I have in my head. And then you're into that, how much and whatever else. And I would say, well, everybody's going to have their own story there. Back to the point of, we as parents are teaching by our behavior.
Well, a couple of things that you reminded me of, back to, like, on the Ziegler show, I do this habits episode and go through that. I can't remember, and I don't know how many people I've done that show with, 100 people, influence people who have books here that we listen to, that we read, that we follow, let influence us. And I don't think I've ever gotten to the physical spoke and have somebody say, you know what, I don't do a darn thing, nothing. Right. I will have plenty that say, man, I struggle in that area. I don't like that area, but here's what I do. I did have somebody in the past year, he said, I walk. I go on walks with my dog and my wife. That's when we catch up, and I do walks, but something, there's something there and then of course we've got the ultra endurance, somebody over here that's doing so much. But it does make me think what you're talking about so I am correlating that to mental capacity. So I'm making that correlation there. But over here on the labels, I'm thinking about that again. I'm thinking about my kids, and man, I want them. Yeah. What are the labels I would want my kids to see with their parents? There's a quote, man, I wish I could pull it up, about the tragedy of kids who have parents. Man, I'm drastically paraphrasing, but in essence, who didn't follow their dreams, who didn't invest in themselves, who didn't, they look up to us so much, they want to. And what do we want to expose themselves to, aspire to? Do we want academics? I mean, do we want purpose? Do we want spirituality? Do we want physical, health and wellness? Do we want morality? Do we want ethics? I mean, we look at these things. Well, then what are we then what are we exposing them to? So if I look at these labels, what does mom and dad do? Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting. What are the labels you would associate with your parents? And would it be what you called me out on? Would it be, he harried, stressed out, super busy, all these? I thought, I don't want those. When you said that, I don't want to emulate that. I'm gonna have to change who I'm being, how I'm being, if I want to change that. And you're talking about the one. Do I want them to say, oh, dad's athletic, or no, dad's not capable of much of anything. He can watch me on the sidelines, but he can't get out there and do anything. He can't go on a hike. He's not going to go. We just went and hunted down our Christmas tree and carried it. Do I want to be able to do that? Or no, dad can't do that. We
did too at Home Depot.
Did you really? That's terrible. I'm so ashamed of you.
You're judging me.
I am judging you. But what do we want those labels to be? You mentioned not having time. I mean, we know the same thing with food. People who are going through McDonald's or picking up processed food or whatever because they don't have time for that. So what do you do to your kids? What do you showcase to your kids that you just work? So what's that do? Works. What's a label? Worker. I mean, literally, we laugh at that, but that's where we've gotten ourselves a lot to it. And I think that's what brought me to this focus, is stepping back and go, gosh, who would not? Well, I did have plenty of people who said, no, I'm not going to read theirs, because most of them just said no. I don't view myself as athletic. I didn't ask them details on that. It'd be interesting if I ask, is that good? Are you okay with that? Mm-hmm. I don't think.
That's a question we ask in the clinic down. I don't ask the athletic. I mean, it kind of comes down to exercise. Do you exercise? What do you do? And rarely do people just flat out say nothing. But we ask, trying to incorporate anybody in the spiritual side of things, and I'll ask that, and they'll give me an answer. I'm very religious with a community, or I walk outside in the forest. And one of the questions is, are you okay with that? Are you where you want to be? Are you on the trajectory that you want to be on? So right now, for me, athletically, I would call myself athletic, but I'm not on the trajectory quite that I want to be on. I want to be becoming a little bit better down that pathway.
Yeah. And again, we're back to, devotion and how much we invest, and then capacity, of where we want, how do we want to see ourselves? I mean, again, I'm going to continue playing with this, pondering with this, the athletic. Do we want to do that? One thing when I look at the people, because there's a lot of people who responded, who I know, or even in the health and wellness, industry, they're personal trainers. We've got, I had one right here. I can't pull it up now, but a couple personal trainers that, that is their livelihood. But when we look at athleticism, the people, going back, you just said the word exercise, the people who I know who exercise are not near as excited about it
as an athlete
as those who have some pursuit. I mean, because you like soccer, you guys are a soccer family. Last year you did a soccer league, wasn't it? You do ultimate Frisbee. I mean, that's a thing that you know how to do. I would say I'm probably physically able to. I don't know that sport. So I'm not into it. I do, running, riding. I could do kayaking. I mean, I know the things I could do and I enjoy that. But just as people listen to this who are struggling with it, I would say I see more inspiration from people who don't just exercise, but they actually engage with a specific athletic pursuit and get to know it. I mean, like my wife with Zumba. I mean, I can't do it's dance. I have not developed that capacity yet.
I'm laughing just imagining.
Oh my gosh, it's total dance. And I mean, that was like me trying to do the dance classes with her. I'm frustrated with how it doesn't compute, but I haven't invested enough for it to. But there's a good example, actually. If I did dance enough to finally get, left foot here, right, and get it to work in my brain. Again, it's a muscle I haven't used, that kind of a physical awareness or ability. If I did that once after so long and realized, oh my gosh, I can do this, there'd be a smile on my face. I would enjoy it. That's what we see with people who hate running, but do it long enough.
Well, that's a good definition. You would then be a dancer.
Yeah.
Terry's a dancer.
I could become a dancer.
Canyon became a runner. Yeah, we watched him go from I am not a runner to I am a runner. Mm-hmm. And that could go away. I mean, he's young. He might get off that habit or whatever else. But for right now.
Well, we're saying that like people know. I know we've mentioned it, but I do want to say, so I have a son, one of my sons this year who we said, okay, you've got to do cross country. He was almost to the point of belligerent, and he's not a belligerent kid, almost to the point, but he finally, and I was saying, just do something. But for lack of choosing something else, you're going to at least do that. Well, he finally then chose it because his brother, they're only 15 months apart. His brother did it. He's like, well, whatever, at least he's doing this. I'll just do it. So he did it and was horrific. His first race, his first 5K, 37 minutes. I don't want to belittle anyone out there because there's people who are, who are not in shape. But that is not a fast time. And for a kid who looks like him, I said, buddy, did you even run? Because we couldn't go, of course, because of COVID. You couldn't go see him. So, and he said, I just don't have the will to, Dad. It was a kind of an issue, a moment. Yeah. So I don't have the will to, but he kept doing it. And his brother also cited that he was not connected with the kids. He wasn't connected socially, whatever, but he kept going and blah, blah, blah. Time goes on. I mean, a month, I don't know, 45 days. He does his next race and does 27 minutes. That's incredible. But what happened? He says, I don't know. It just feels better. And now I hear that he's talking to, there's a girl that he's made friends with and some of the people he's making friends with. And then boom, the next 30 days. And then he does the last race that they did, and they did it together. Last race, he did a 22, real close to 23. And his brother did like 7 seconds further, under 22 minutes. And he had a smile on his face. I mean, he was so proud of himself. We went running on Thanksgiving, just a week ago or something, the turkey trot. And at some point of it, or maybe it was a couple of days later, I went running with him, and he just kind of at his own pace left the group. Because I was with one of his sisters and whatever, and he left it. And I'm looking at him going, why is he making the effort to run fast? I haven't asked him about it, but now he is, as you said, a runner. It's just what a great fruition to see that when we invest in that thing and become proficient at it, we by proxy have more enjoyment of it. So again, back to that pursuit. If you take up something, I want people to hear that, as opposed to say, no, I exercise. I'm going to go and I'm going to lift that weight 10 times with that weight level. I mean, if you go up and I can do more reps, I can do, heavier weight. That is a progression. I just don't see as much enjoyment generally. I'm making a broad stroke from people who do exercise as opposed to, oh no, I participate in this sport endeavor.
Yeah. And I'll be one of the ones that's going to give you the skeptical thing back, because where we live in the league, and to drive an hour to go play soccer for 45 minutes, and we won't do it again. It's time prohibitive. And so it's better for me to, force myself to exercise than to go do something like that. But absolutely, would I enjoy it more if we were doing that kind of all the time?
Well, and weather permitting, you do. How many Sundays? Well, before COVID, but last year,
weather permitting,
which we're playing ultimate frisbee.
It's a frustrating thing is that it's 3 months out of the year.
I know. Yeah.
And so I'm one of those people that I hear you, but the league is an hour away and can't change that. So it still comes back to the mindset of choosing to engage in exercise as a pursuit, as a as a, you know, and as an athlete. And we're kind of back to that term, and maybe we're encouraging people. I'm encouraging myself to kind of click over a little bit and say, it doesn't mean you have to be as fast, as strong, as whatever, as Kevin Miller or whoever. It is within your own head, seeing yourself that way, you are much more likely to be becoming a little bit better version of yourself.
You know, and yeah, I hear you on that. And I said earlier in this show, you know, I love my exercise and stuff. Honestly, the exercise aspect, like I got weights over there that I've started doing that, or I'll do, you know, during the day, who knows, I'll do 4-8 sets of, you know, shoulders and biceps, and I'll do push-ups and whatever. I do not like that. I do it like who's your Mahomes guy? What's he saying?
100% hate him and 100% don't care.
Yeah, with his green beans as he's doing them. And that would be me. I don't enjoy lifting inanimate objects. It's not my gig, but I do it because running and riding don't work out my upper body and give me the athleticism, you know, that I want. That is the benefit of running. We're a running family, and that's it. You can do it. It's absolutely free. You can do it anywhere. All you need is a pair of shoes, or barefoot, which we can do that too. You know, that is a benefit of that, especially if you live in an area like we do. Cycling is an easy one, you know, as well. But yeah, some of the other ones, it takes such an investment to go do
skiing. I mean, it's just, my gosh, people say, "Oh, I ski." I'm like, ugh.
You do. That is the hardest one for me. It's such an effort to take the family and expense, and holy smokes.
We talked about it yesterday as a family. And I looked at my son and I'm like, do you really want to? Because it is such a pain to get the family out there to do something like that. It's always great. It's like camping. It's great after you've done it. You tell the stories, and we did it as a family. But when the alarm goes off at, 5:30 on a Saturday morning to get out there, it's hard.
Well, so we can end with, one more offering that I'll give people is, if you're struggling with exercise, if you're struggling with this, being athletic, whatever, back to the blue zones, getting with other people who do is such a huge benefit. I shared about my wife. She loves her Zumba class because she's with those people. And I've seen so many people who, especially ones who are trying to restart or get fit for the first time, and to take running, they'll do that and join a local running club. I mean, almost we're in a pissant little town. We have a running club. I think there's a cycling club. I don't know what all clubs are, but you can join those. But even going to the events, I mean, that's so many people get inspired. I think they do things like the 5Ks because you go there, there's a lot happening, that a lot of them are big events, and it's exciting. It's inspiring. It's invigorating. You go do it. They send you your time. They send you a picture, and to take on, again, that role of athleticism and to be a part of a group is one of the best things for accountability, positive accountability, and involvement. We all want to be involved and have a community. Is find that community, find however you can.
I would second that, even on the medical side. And we're back to that foundational concept of relationship. You said community. Be in relationship with yourself, with your family, and then in that next layer with a community. And then finally, that's one of the problems with COVID that has stripped so much of that away. So now we're going to have to put even a little bit more effort and awareness of that. So but I would encourage people to lean that way.
Yeah, that is such an admitted deficiency now with the current state of affairs, with not being able to come together, and which is why we've seen the online groups explode. I've been advertising because I have a hydro machine. It's a rowing, things like Peloton, and you can join those. It's next best.
You cannot play soccer online.
You can't play soccer on. That's true. That is true.